Okay, so moving on to the next segment of today's show, I wanted to talk about the New Orleans Saints' dominant win on Sunday Night Football over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I feel like there are times where you look at the scoreboard and it says that the game is a blowout, but if you really watch the game, you're like, yeah, it's a blowout, but it wasn't that big of a deficit. One team just took control at the end, or there was a fumble or a pick six, a scoop and score, and that's ultimately why one team won and the scoreboard looked like that. But nah, that was not the case in this game at all. This was an absolute ass whooping from the second the game started, and I'm obviously impressed with the Saints. And if you're a Buccaneer fan, I think it is pretty reasonable right now to have some. And a lot of people have asked me, does this game change my opinion on the New Orleans Saints and how I look at them for the rest of the season? And it does a little bit, just in the sense that right now I look at the NFC and it is just wide open to me. The Bucs, a lot of people thought were the team to beat, especially after their win over the Packers. But their last 2 weeks, they barely beat the Giants and then lose at home. So right now in the NFC, I believe at the top, it's wide open between four teams: Seattle, New Orleans, Tampa, and Green Bay. Because to be honest with you guys, right now, I don't know who the best team in the NFC is. A lot of people are going to be on the Saints, but let's just be honest here. They've looked very good in 2 games against the Bucs, but they should have lost to the Chargers. They were down 14-0 early to Detroit. They lost to the Raiders. They almost lost to the Bears, and they lost at home to the Packers. But maybe getting Michael Thomas back with Emmanuel Sanders is the missing ingredients that they need. The Saints, what really impressed me in this game, had 12 different guys with catches, and Alvin Kamara didn't even do that much. The Bucs ran the ball 4 times the whole game, and Tom Brady had 2 picks. The Saints got pressure on Brady, and after that, it was over because you know what is Tom Brady's kryptonite? Pressure. That's how you beat him. And the bottom line is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line needs to be better. I understand Ali Marpet, the Pro Bowl guard, was out in this game, but really the whole offensive line as a unit, when a guy like that gets hurt, they all need to step up. And this game changes my opinion on the Saints in 2 ways. One, it's one game, but that was the best performance anyone has shown me all season long. And the Saints, with that win, show me that they belong in the table for discussion with the Seattle, with the Green Bay, with the Tampa Bay. And they now sweep the season series with the Buccaneers and move ahead of them in the loss column. And right now, with that tiebreaker, it is going to be very hard, in my opinion, for Tampa Bay to catch New Orleans, just because looking at New Orleans' schedule, the only game that they have in the upcoming future that I could really see them losing relatively is when they get the Kansas City Chiefs and Pat Mahomes at home. And that's kind of like a toss-up game, 50-50. So the Saints right now do look to be in a very good position to win the NFC South, and that's what really matters. And here's my other thing. Bruce Arians just made so many awful coaching decisions in this game, so let's get to it. I'm a Bruce Arians fan, but Tom Brady being in the game when the Buccaneers are down 38-0 and he's taking hit after hit after hit when your offensive line clearly just doesn't have it, I'm not a fan of that decision. Tom Brady could have gotten killed. So I don't know what Bruce Arians was doing there. And I'm a Bruce Arians fan, but to be honest with you guys, these are the games where it doesn't shock me that historically his teams fall short, because challenging a spot call in the first quarter when it's clear that there's not enough evidence to be overturned and your team has no momentum, just, I don't know what the point of that was. So that's my first critique of Bruce Arians. I don't get that. And a lot of people have been saying for a while that the Buccaneers and the Seahawks are probably the 2 frontrunners in the NFC, but now I couldn't tell you. Before yesterday, that's what a lot of people were saying, the Buccaneers and the Seahawks. But I'll say this, they won't be saying that right now, because to me, I don't know how anyone could even know who the best team in the NFC is right now. And I know sometimes, I don't know, isn't the answer everyone wants to hear, but I got to be honest with you guys. The Packers, Saints, Bucs, and Seahawks are all in the convo because they are all flawed and they all have their weaknesses. Looking at Green Bay, they can't handle any team that is physical at all, and Mike Pettin is not a good defensive coordinator. Seattle gave up 44 points to Buffalo, who is good, but 44 points? They couldn't score on New England last week, and they couldn't score against the Jets the week before that, and you make Josh Allen look like Joe Montana, that's a ridiculous effort from Seattle. They are literally a middle school defense. The Saints are the best team the Bucs have played so far this season, and the Saints have dominated both matchups. Now, you could just say maybe it's a bad matchup, and maybe that's all it is. But my only issue with that is 38-0 is not a matchup problem. That's just you got your ass blasted problem. If you said to me this second, pick a team to come out of the NFC, who would it be and why? As crazy as this may sound, I think I would pick the Green Bay Packers. I think Matt LaFleur is a better head coach than Bruce Arians, and I do think that when you compare Green Bay and Tampa Bay, I know when they played, Tampa Bay obviously beat them up pretty good, but I do think Aaron Rodgers won't play that badly again. So right now, if I were to pick any team to come out of the NFC, it would probably be Green Bay, but to be honest, I have no idea who I would pick. I think it is wide open, and this year more than any, the bye is going to mean so much because not only are you going to get home field, but you're going to get that week off, which everyone covets so much. And Green Bay's defense needs to be better, or else they're not doing anything. I think ultimately that's what it will come down to. Whose defense is playing the best at the right time? And this win does put the Saints in the driver's seat to win the NFC South. They have a soft schedule the rest of the way, and they have the Chiefs. That's really the only game they're in danger of losing, I think. And if the Saints win this division, I got to be honest with you guys, I don't necessarily know if I trust the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and their coach that's playing zone the whole game when Drew Brees cannot beat you deep. Everyone knows that. I don't know what exactly Todd Bowles and Bruce Arians were doing the whole game there, playing zone. Tom Brady can't get Mike Evans the ball. Gronk is dropping pass after pass. He's clearly not the same guy. They're also force-feeding Antonio Brown the ball when he's been with the offense for 5 minutes. He also gets the first down and does a celebration when his team is down 31-0. So I understand it's one game, but that was an out-and-out disaster by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if the Saints win the division, I don't know if I'm going to be able to trust the Bucs to go on the road and win 3 consecutive games in the playoffs. I was sold on the Bucs, but they should have lost to and just got absolutely destroyed in this game by the New Orleans Saints. I think right now we could all agree that the NFC is a crapshoot because I, like many other people, were writing the Saints off because Drew Brees has looked horrible so many times throughout the season. So my question is, how do we evaluate this game? The Bucs went into last night's game with an 82 plus 82 point differential, so there goes that. And it's hard to write them off after that because it's Tom Brady. They still obviously have a talented roster. We'll see what exactly Antonio Brown turns into once he gets the offense a little more under his belt. But at the same time, it's hard to even predict who's coming out of the NFC because I'm not even writing off Seattle either. But right now, I think we could all agree their defense is just not good at all. It needs to get from being the 32nd best defense in the league to the 20th best defense in the league. And that Seahawks team that is playing right now really does remind me a little bit of the 2018 Kansas City Chiefs and everything that they were able to do. If you remember, that was the year Patrick Mahomes won the MVP. That was just a historic season. And still, with that being said, the Chiefs were not able to make it to the Super Bowl because their defense was so bad they couldn't get off the field when they needed to the most against Tom Brady in the AFC Championship game. And Arizona, a team that a lot of people, including myself, really wanted to put high up on the list, they lose to Miami at home. That's a game that they really should win if they're a legitimate contender. And to me, the NFC is wide open. Even the Philadelphia Eagles, they're on a 2-game winning streak. Maybe even they could get hot. I mean, I don't know. You guys know I believe in Carson Wentz, but we'll see what happens. It does look like a 4-team race to me, and a lot of it does come down to circumstance. Who is hurt? Who is healthy? Which is why it would be easy for people to say the Saints right now, but I'm not going to overreact because there is no one in the NFC right now that I look at and say, okay, that team is just definitively better than everyone else. And Tampa Bay, I mean, Bruce Arians has to be better, man. I still don't know what exactly that game plan was. And I understand the Buccaneers were on a short week, but I just don't understand how the Buccaneers legitimately thought going into that game with that game plan, they were going to have a chance to win. I mean, they ran the ball 4 times. 4? Does Bruce Arians know how old Tom Brady is? He's 43. You should know that when you sign up to play with Tom Brady as your quarterback, you should know that if you're going to throw the ball that many times, that is not a recipe for success just because Tom Brady's not prime Tom Brady anymore, man. Did Bruce Arians watch any of last season? You can't be putting that much pressure on him to throw the ball. And to be honest, this is kind of why at the back of my mind, I was a little bit worried about Tampa Bay going into the season, just because historically they're such a bad franchise, and Bruce Arians does make decisions like that that just really scratch your head. I mean, they were playing zone the whole game. What was the game plan? Stop force-feeding Antonio Brown the ball and throw it to who's open, man. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, you have legitimate weapons on your team, and you got to be able to use them. It's almost like the Tom Brady effect. It's almost similar to LeBron in the sense that when LeBron wants his guys, they come in, and sometimes I think you have to worry a little bit that, all right, Tom Brady, he's the GOAT. We're going to basically give him anything he wants in order to be successful, but at the same time, you just hope that everyone else on the team is okay with that. And to be honest, I don't know if Bruce Arians is the right guy to be leading that locker room. He's an older coach. I understand most players like him usually, but man, I don't know if I trust that Tampa Bay coaching staff right now. And when I compare them to some of the other teams in the NFC, I think they're in the mix. But you see why historically I believe Bruce Arians' teams just fall short. And that's a problem that Tampa Bay needs to get adjusted going forward. Also, I just wanted to say a quick shout out to the New Orleans Saints defense and Taysom Hill and Sean Payton here. I think the way they out-executed, out-schemed the Buccaneers was superb here, and Sean Payton deserves a lot of credit. I ripped him in his efforts on Sunday against the Chicago Bears when he was giving Taysom Hill the ball just way too much in way too predictable of a situation. But I do think on Sunday against the Bucs, Sean Payton used Taysom Hill perfectly. He was able to give him the ball in unpredictable situations. He only passed with him once or twice, and most importantly, when Drew Brees was in rhythm, Sean Payton didn't take the ball out of his hands like he's done so many times. Now, maybe adding guys like Emmanuel, and if they could keep up the good work going forward, I think they'll be in a good spot with Sanders, with Thomas. We know how big of an impact receiver Michael Thomas was last year. So I'm really looking forward to see what the Saints do going forward, and I think with this win over Tampa Bay, they solidified themselves to be in the mix.